Welcome to this video where we'll be looking at Harmony Bloom, a reasonably priced VST3 and AU plugin that also works standalone. I've put a link in the video description so you can check it out for yourselves. So what is Harmony Bloom? Well, everything you're listening to now was generated by it. The sounds themselves are from my existing VSTs, but in all instances the notes themselves originated from Harmony Bloom. As such, you can't really describe it as a sequencer or some sort of random note generator. It's more of a pattern generator, both visually and, of course, musically. It's playful, inventive, creative, and it just invites experimentation. As a first release, Mario Nieto has done an excellent job creating a unique plugin that's fun to use. Each control has excellent tooltips that cover each function in detail, so a tutorial is rather redundant as you'll be using Harmony Bloom in minutes. So I'm going to go into a few areas that might not be immediately obvious, like how to create chords, and show a few examples that incorporate elements of probability that hopefully illustrate how you might use Harmony Bloom in your own music. Let's have a look at a few individual examples before returning to the piece I've just played and examining it in more detail. So let's have a brief look at the layout of Harmony Bloom. If we look at the central circle, you'll see that these faint lines are trigger lines, and they trigger the circular areas that are the notes themselves. So if I hit play now, you'll see that as they cross the trigger lines, they trigger the notes. So I've just added an extra trigger line there, and we'll stop the play. So the easiest way to generate a chord is to think evenly. So we have three notes here. Let's set the offset to 4. Well, no, let's set it to 2 initially, and you'll hear that we'll now get a chord when we hit play. We'll look at more interesting ways of generating chord shapes that evolve over time in a few minutes. If I set the offset now to 3, you'll hear again if I hit play. We're getting an arpeggio, so if I hit 4 now, you'll see that with 4 segments drawn and a quantized offset of 4, if I press play again, we're still getting chords. So basically, even values tend to give you chords. So let's just play with a few of the other controls. You also have dice elements, so you can come up with random patterns, which is quite handy. So let's hit play. And you'll see with the 3 notes, an even value in the quantize, we're getting the chords. Let's put a Q offset of 5. So we're getting that arpeggio again. Let's increase the number of notes. The notes are naturally all in the scale that are specified at the top. Now if we look at the distance between the notes, we can remove that regimented timing by the F offset button. Similarly, if I just stop play now, I'll put that back to 0. And if we look at the S offset, this is quite interesting. It varies the speed between the incoming notes. So you'll see the pattern shift and change with time. So if I hit play now, you'll see that the inner notes are moving at different speed to the outer notes. So again, if we increase this, can very quickly get sort of randomized results, but sometimes you will come across a pattern that's absolutely stunning. So in this example, I'm going to use Abyss to create a sort of a shifting soundscape. So there are lots of notes, as you can see, selected, but I've selected a probability of 50%. So there's only a 50-50 chance that notes will trigger. If I hit play now, I'm running Abyss through one of my favorite reverbs, which is Phonolith Cascade. And you'll hear why. It just gives us a wonderful wash. Let's go. So we have a long envelope on Abyss. You can see the notes being triggered in Abyss down here. Not every note is being triggered because of the percentage probability. And of course, it's all given this wonderful sheen by Phonolith Cascade. So if I stop the playback now, we've got a bit of release in Abyss, but what we're hearing largely is the output of Cascade, which is just a simply gorgeous reverb. This is another example with Pigments. The secret to sort of washes of sound like this are basically to experiment with the note duration. You'll see it's got a 6-second note duration, and also the attack time of your main envelope. I'm running this one through another excellent plugin from Phonolith, Velvet Machine, which you can specify the curves of the reverb. So this has a lovely bell-shaped reverb, so it comes in slowly and fades out slowly. Let's have a listen to the overall effect of this one. Again, we've got that lovely slow fade in. Only a 14% probability on this one. But rather than just have a static chord, you've got a chord that's gradually evolving, and it's more of a sort of a wash of sound that's obviously in key with your piece. So this example really illustrates that sometimes you can stumble across interesting patterns that look geometrically interesting, but also sound interesting. This is with an F offset number that is sort of a non-integer number. I'm controlling the Q of Phaseplant. There's a random Q going on just to give a bit of variety to the sound. In this example, I'm using a keyboard input to transpose the pattern. So I'm using this clip, 2 simple notes, triggering a musical box type sound coming from Hive. This example really is to show you the importance of the note duration command. This particular sound has a slow attack on the filter, and so adjusting the note duration can actually change the overall sound quite a bit. Let's just hit play and I'll show you what I mean. So let's return to the piece that you heard at the beginning. All the sounds are controlled by note on and off on the keyboard. So if you look at the pad sound and the bass sound, they're both continuous. But I've got some of the other sounds, the bells and the whistle sounds, that literally come in and out at various times through the arrangement. So let's have a quick look at the sounds themselves. The Hive pad uses a similar technique that I showed you before, with a 50% possibility of notes occurring, but out of a combination of 10 notes. Let's hear that now. So again, that glorious reverb is created by Phonolith Cascade. In the piece, the whistle sound is created by Bit 2, the Rob Pappen synth, and I've tried to create like a random melody, so I've only given a 30-odd% chance probability of the notes occurring, and that they only come in a couple of times during the arrangement. So you're not ending up with a regular arpeggiated pattern. Because of the note probability, you're actually getting what sounds more like a randomized melody. I've actually added another random element in the Magic Kalimba patch that I've created here. Not only are the notes being triggered in a random fashion, but I have a random modulator here that is modulating the playhead for a granular patch that's triggering various notes from a kalimba. So this introduces yet another random element that means that the track doesn't repeat itself. So on the Zebra or Zebra 2 patch, it's a bell sound, and again at 50% probability of the notes occurring. It's triggered during the middle phase, but I'll just set it going here. 50% probability of 8 notes occurring between C4 and C5. So a slightly different bell-type patch is being created here from Equator 2, this time with a very low probability of 24% of the notes occurring. Let's have a listen to that. You'll see that as the dots go past, only 1 in 4, roughly, are occurring. So rather than repeating patterns, this keeps things fresh by introducing the notes at random times. Finally, let's look at the bass preset. I'm using the excellent TAL-Sampler for this, set to a synth-type patch. There's a 50% probability of 5 notes occurring, and this pattern is being generated like so. So let's remind ourselves of the whole piece again. Well, I hope these examples gave you some sort of idea of Harmony Bloom's capabilities. I've had great fun with it, and I can't wait to see what the developer comes up with next. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to be notified of future videos. It's free of charge, and it helps the channel to grow. So until the next one, thanks for watching.